Hi all, it looks like we're ready to call this Dover School Committee meeting to order. Today is May 13th, 2024, and we are meeting in the Dover Sherborne Middle School Library. The time is now 6:30. The first thing on the agenda is community comments. We have provided a Zoom link for those who wish to make a comment, but for whom it is not possible or preferred to attend in person. This evening, are there any community comments? Looks like no one's here. No one's online?
No.
Okay. Moving along. Our next agenda item is the superintendent's comments. So I'll give you a second to sit down, but Superintendent McCoy, I will hand it over to you for an update.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick update. So a few weeks ago now, we hosted the Challenge Success Conference for all of the schools on the East Coast, which was super exciting. We had about 11 schools total, us included, and it was a great opportunity for teachers, administrators, parents from each of our schools to come together and talk about the work that we've done in the last 10 years. It was also an opportunity for us to model for schools that are new to the program, all that can be done around mindfulness, playtime, start time, homework, assessments, all of those things, and to be reminded of where we started 10 years ago, and the importance of student data and student voice in all that we do. And just recently this year, we had the Challenge Success survey done in the middle school and high school. This is the third time we've done it, and you can start to see the changes and track the data to see the impact of the work that we've done. And I think listening to the new teams who have just done their survey for the first time reminded us of how important it is to really stop and look at that data. So we're hoping to do some deep dives with both the teachers so they can look at the data around sleep, homework, engagement, academic pressure, as well as we want the students to take a look at the data and help us to make sense of it. So that was super exciting. Dover had its town meeting, and the budget went through, so hoping everybody will get out to vote next Monday. Unit B, thanks to Liz for sitting on the negotiation team. We continue to negotiate with our educational assistants, and we'll be coming together again on Wednesday. We're making great progress and hoping that we are near a resolution soon. And last but not least, we are heavy into hiring season, and I don't have to tell you more than Dr. Reineman. She can fill you in afterwards, but it's been great. Super exciting. Dr. Reineman and her team does all the screening, sends forth the finalist. I get to sit and talk to that person and talk everything about teaching and learning and their hopes and dreams for Dover Sherborne, and we have some great candidates coming into our school. So very excited for next year. Yeah. That's it for now, but I'm happy to take questions and comments.
Any questions, comments?
No?
Thanks, Beth.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is the financial reports. Don, would you please share the warrant report and then the fiscal year 24 monthly report?
Yes, thank you. So you have your normal accounts payable warrant report. We haven't met. We've skipped April, so your list is a little bit longer. But you can obviously see what we pay in your different grants and within your different operating funds. So it's always interesting just to look at that. And we will then transition. Liz, we'll find someone and you'll cross-train them and get them into all the little nuances that we do at Town Hall.
Definitely.
And we'll keep that along. On your monthly report, your status of appropriations, we have your numbers as of April 30th. The good news is that there's really no new information. As you notice, this is just the report moving forward. So everything is operating as we have been documenting. There is some new information regarding circuit breaker, and I know this gets confusing, so hopefully it's sort of what understood it. So the state actually last year, because of the 14% increase that we had on tuition, had set aside a reserve relief for school districts to apply for circuit breaker relief. So they always have extraordinary relief. This is reserve relief. So we didn't qualify for extraordinary relief, but how our numbers panned out, because as you know, we're over budget this year, not necessarily because of the 14%, but it allowed us to apply for that. And the nuances of our circuit breaker is that really the bulk of Dover's activity is at the 6 through 22 level, which then flows to the region and is co-mingled with Sherburne. So the region qualified for about $275,000 in circuit breaker relief. So once we get the detail, we'll have to break it out between Sherburne and Dover. But I'm estimating Dover will get at least 200,000 of that 275,000. So that'll be additional circuit breaker that we have on top of the $1.1 million that you have already received this year. The only sort of negative aspect of this, it's really just an accelerated payment. It's going to get taken off of our circuit breaker from next year. So it sort of helps this year a little bit. We won't, we were tight anyway, breaking even, so it'll be nice. We'll have a cushion. There'll be some give back to Dover, but that 200,000 or so will then be taken away from our payment next year. But we're going to qualify for a higher payment anyway, so we might just end up at the 1.1 where we were. But it was extraordinary relief circuit breaker. When we do get that, you get double payments. So everyone thought they were going to get all this double, and then they're like, oh, yeah, no, there's a caveat.
It's a give back.
The reserve relief gets deducted.
Got it.
So they actually gave us the option to defer it. But at this point, I think it's best just to have the money in the bank and deal with it that way, because in Dover, we wipe it out every year. So it's not like we keep anything on hand. So hopefully by June, we should know exactly what that number is, and then that will be reflected and make us have a little bit larger of a turn back, because right now, we're estimating just about $100,000 to give back off the $1.1 million circuit breaker, so it'll go up probably by a little bit. We're still experiencing substitute costs, and we're still purchasing a few things, so that number will fluctuate, but it gives us a little bit more of a cushion to know that we are not going to be in a situation where we'd have to ask the town for more money. And then, as Beth mentioned, the Dover's town meeting was held on May 6th. Both the school's operating budget, which was included in with the town's budget, was approved, along with our capital request for the flooring for the 4 or 5 wing. And that is scheduled to begin, I think, like the middle of July, waiting for the product still to come in. And that was paid for with free cash, so you won't see that on the ballot. If it's going to be borrowed on to pay, that's when you'll see it on the ballot. You have to go vote. But now we know this is done. It was approved using free cash, so we are good to go.
Great.
Any questions on any of 24, 25? Soon we'll be talking about 26.
Oh, God.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, you just always present it so clearly.
If that's the case. If anyone asks you a question, I hope you guys can answer it. That's my goal.
The free cash piece. So if it's, how does that, the actual itemized expense would otherwise show up on the ballot at the end?
You have to vote. Yeah. So the larger items is usually they go out in bond. So you do see, like, I will give you an example. So the capital project over at Pine Hill, they are borrowing for. So that's actually on their ballot tomorrow.
For the
Wow.
AC.
Yeah. So you'd have to, it has to pass by 2/3. Both at that. So it has to pass town meeting, and then it has to go.
Additionally.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because of the impact on, it's debt exempt from property taxes. So
I think the
that's where
community
that-
center was like that too. Right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and an AC
Yeah.
for Chickering was like that.
Yeah. And sometimes we do. I mean, they'll do some, but Dover usually likes to pay for the smaller items, and even Sherburne does some of the smaller items with free cash.
Got it. Good to know for future projects.
Yeah.
Thank you. We now have our discussion items. Tonight we're sharing the proposed changes to the student handbook. This is our first read of the suggested changes. Dr. Reineman, would you please provide an overview of the suggested changes?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening. It's nice to see you all. So we, I believe Beth coordinated a review, or maybe it was Kate McCarthy, of all of our student handbooks. So we submitted them, and legal and counsel went through and came back with 2 recommendations for the Chickering handbook. One is that we needed to give clear information and the links for free and reduced lunch, even though lunch is free. we had to provide direct access to that. I talked with Janelle Madden, who coordinates all of that, and she advised that we link to the website because the form changes every year. So if at least you go to the website, then it will direct you to the form. And that free and reduced lunch form is used for all sorts of different pieces, including grant writing and budgeting. So we still need to provide that, even though lunch is provided free by the state of Massachusetts right now. So that is very simply a link to the website. So that one was easy. The second one was language regarding suspension from school. So nosed around to my fellow principals and looked at materials. The information for the high school and the middle school is quite dense. In fact, denser than the information that you see here that I borrowed from my dear friends at Pine Hill. So if it looks familiar at all, it's because it's from the Pine Hill one, which got approved by legal counsel. So I've already got that blessing on it. My concern is it's quite lengthy. It's just going to be a significant chunk of the handbook, but we have to have it in there. The other option is to shorten up, have one paragraph, and then link to all the information, but it just seems unnecessarily difficult. So we will do that. Our hope is this summer to change the layout of our handbook. If you're familiar, if you've looked in it, it's set up on the website and it's through like tabs down the side of the page. And it was created actually a number of years ago. We had someone in leadership training, and that was one of her projects. And it was beautiful and lovely, but it's very hard to navigate and make changes to. So we'll peel it out sometime this summer and make it just one PDF that is easier to work with table of contents and links in it. So the text that you see there is what we are proposing to add per legal counsel.
Dr. Heineman, is there substantive changes that have to be discussed? Like, do parents need to know about it? Like, does it have to be communicated to anybody? Or like?
That's a great question. We use suspension in school and out of school as a very last resort. Number of suspensions since I've been working at Chickering is less than 5 every year. So it doesn't actually even get reported other than less than 5 to the Department of Education. The change is it's not any different. It's just something people don't tend to look to.
Right, so we're just documenting the process now.
Better than we did.
Better than we did. And when you sign off on Aspen in the fall, verifying your child's address and emergency contacts, you check the box saying that you've read the handbook and you're aware of the policies. So that's an opportunity for parents to review it and ask questions.
What material this is putting into verbose language that was already in practice, but just
right. Just due process and investigations and documentation.
And it's quite complicated, as Dr. Reineman said, because there's 37H law, which is around suspension and expulsion, and there's 37H and a half, 37H and 3/4, and this one contradicts the other. So the principals did a really nice job of teasing through all of that, and Deb and Bart landing on some pretty simple language for the elementary level, because thankfully it's not something that we have to use very often.
Any more questions?
So actually, just one. This one more for you. So with elementary, it's been less than 5 in your tenure. Is it generally a problem at the middle or high school? Is it all?
No, same, less than 5.
That's great. Yeah.
And even fewer now with other options through restorative practices, where we have structured days where students come to school because we want them to be in school and in learning, and we just kind of take away some of their fun activities during the day, like recess or break. So yeah, the number is trending down.
That's a good thing. Thank you, Dr. Reineman.
Thank you.
So that brings us to our action items. We have a couple. So the first one is the policy manual update. We are voting on the manual update. This is our second read. We were provided an overview during our first read by Angie, Martha, Judy, and Christine at our April joint school committee meeting. Martha, is there anything you feel like you might need to add?
No, just that we've been supported tremendously on this review. We're really aligning it with templated language and trying to remove duplicative, I would call it leftovers from past edit sessions. So our goal is to get through all of the policies before we return for the fall.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're motivated. More to come.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think that's an ambitious goal.
Yeah,
We'll
We've got
see.
3 attorneys on there. They'll
No,
get it done.
I think it might happen.
Yeah.
that's amazing. Does anyone have any further questions about what was being or is being proposed? Okay, so may I get a motion to approve the proposed policy manual updates?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you guys, and thank the team for all their hard work on that and motivation to keep going. The second item is to approve the non-resident tuition revolving fund. Dawn, could you provide an overview of that?
Sure can, and there's sort of the second and third are sort of interrelated.
Yeah.
But as you know, through the budget process, we're transferring the connection program from Pine Hill to Chickering next year. Since 2016, Pine Hill has had a non-resident student tuition fund because Dover has been sending students over there for various reasons. So now that we've got the travel going the other way, you need to set up with the town a place for us to be able to deposit the tuition that we're going to assess students who come in from Sherburne.
Okay.
So even though because we're 3 different districts, we have a school committee to school committee agreement that these programs that we have in district, students from the other district can participate in. So with the anticipation that there's a handful of students who may come from Pine Hill next year over to Chickering, we need to put this mechanisms in place to be able to accept them. So the first action item is to vote on establishing a non-resident student tuition revolving fund so that we have a place to deposit the tuition, and then it's also available to charge expenses for programming against that account. And I've provided for you the MGL Chapter 71, Section 71F that allows school districts to establish this fund. And upon you approving it tonight, I will work with the town to make sure that they put that into their system to set up this account.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions?
I just got a quick question. And this is strictly just between Dover and Sherburne. Like this doesn't open up any.
No, right
Can
now it's a
somebody-
school committee to school committee
Okay.
agreement that we will tuition in students into our programming. It's one of those options that down the road, if we really build a robust program and we're looking for a cohort in order to keep it moving, you can look to other towns, but it's not school choice.
Got it. Okay.
It's something
That
different
was-
from that. Special education has sort of a different set of parameters that you can use, so it doesn't open you up to school choice.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Okay. May I get a motion to approve the non-resident student tuition revolving fund? Thank you. May I get a second?
See a whole second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay, so the motion carries unanimously. So next, we're going to be voting on the fiscal year 25 non-resident student tuition. Don, do you want to just?
Sure.
give
So
an update
then
on
past practice is that rate is based on the most current per pupil in district cost, and the most recent actually was just updated on DESE was fiscal year 23. And so pulling that from the website gives us a tuition of $21,822. That is the tuition that you will approve, knowing though that any additional services that a student may receive as part of that program also gets charged. Similar to the students that are attending Pine Hills program from Chickering, also some of them have one-to-one EAs. That is also then assessed. And so it's your base tuition plus costs that are easily identifiable with those students. But on an annual basis, as long as we still have the Connections program and we still have students coming from Sherburne, you will see this motion every year to set the new rate.
that? Any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay. May I get a motion to approve the non-resident student tuition for 2025?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jesse. Any further discussion? All in favor? So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dawn, for setting that up. Okay, we next have our consent items, which we can vote on together. But the first item on the consent agenda is would you say that's as ACED?
Extra, the
Or like, do you say that?
the Advisory
together?
Council for Extra Compensatory.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent McCoy, would you mind giving us the background on the Appendix C?
Sure. So as part of the teacher's contract, there's Appendix C in the back, which outlines all the stipends that go for the curriculum leaders that you have at each grade level, for the department chairs at the high school, for advisors, for chess club, for there's so many. Was that
Department heads.
department heads? Yes. All your coaches' stipends are in there as well. And whenever we have a new program that is run for 2 to 3 years and seems to have consistent participation and support, we then open it up for the advisors to apply to make it an official stipend, because the first 2 to 3 years are free on their own time and energy trying to get the program up and running. So once we know that it's a substantial program that will continue, our advisors apply to have a stipend officially listed in Appendix C. And so we have one request coming from Chickering this year. Usually most requests come from the middle and high school because they have the most clubs and activities running after school. But we do have one this year. So Dr. Reineman, would you mind talking a little bit to the request?
Certainly. So this is the new request. So the PLC leaders don't have to be approved every year. Oh, thank you. I was just trying to count. Here you go.
Thank you.
So we started the Rainbow Club at Chickering a year ago, and had a number of teachers who volunteered to help run that organization and that group. And the kids meet once a month, and it's amazing and fun. And we brought forward to the AECG committee.
It just sounds
the proposal to fund 2 advisors for that committee. And I think we do 2 or 1. I was just looking to see.
Well, it's one stipend, and
One
if
stipend,
2
right.
advisors
Can share.
do it, they share it. If 4
Right.
did it, they'd share it.
Right, exactly, we split it. And after discussion, the committee agreed to fund it, and we're thrilled to be able to offer that. We'll actually have 2 advisors in the fall who will split the stipend, should it be approved.
So the committee, just because you guys don't hear this very often, is made up of educators from all the schools. So they vet all of these, and then they move forward to school committee what they agree upon. So it goes through like two vetting processes. Yeah.
So it's already gone through that first process.
And Emily Sullivan sits on there as the athletic director. The principals all have representation on there, as well as the union. So it's looked at through multiple eyes. So they're recommending your consideration for Rainbow Club, which, as Deb said, started last year, is now in year 2 and continues to be robust.
Yeah.
And it's after school, so it is additional time for the teachers to be spending with our students
Beyond the school day.
beyond
Yeah.
the school day.
And then there's noted in here too, just so that, because normally these come before the budget's approved so they can get built into the next year's budget. This one's actually not using any money from your operating fund. We're going to fund it through the student activity fund, which has funds that we need to expense. And so it's covered, so you're approving it, but it's not going to change your budget for fiscal year 25. And when there's a determination that that's not a viable place to pay it from, then we'll come forward, not to you to have it approved again, but you'll see it built into the budget.
Don, could you just explain a little bit more about the Student Activities Fund and how that's revolving?
So every school has a student activity fund. So you have there's an accumulation of funds at Chickering. So all the field trips run through there. Anything that a student pays for, that where expense comes out. And so back a while ago, it's got to build up because the photography money used to go in there, the coffee pond money. And so I think it's built up a little bit of a base, and actually the auditors are telling us we need to spend it down. So this is a perfect opportunity to use money that came from the community, the population of the school, and we could do it for a couple of years actually before we would be so making a dent in the student activity. So the student activity then is there for a little bit of money too is for scholarships. So when you go on field trips, if someone can't come, there's always, so field trips never always end up exactly where they need to be, right? So sometimes there's a little bit extra. So that's also a great place for scholarships to come from for field trips. You'll see the balance when we show you your quarterly statement of revolving, it's the number at the bottom. So we do report it to you on a quarterly basis.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about that?
Just a comment. So my daughter has been doing it for the last 2 years and came home from it last week saying that she really feels like it's her most favorite thing to be doing. So thank you to the teachers. I know they go above and beyond, but it's taken her to another level of trying to figure out how she could be more kind and accepting of everyone in her own personal life. So I highly recommend it to folks for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Our second item in the consent agenda is the minutes from our last meeting, which was March 14th, 2024. Does anyone have any comments or suggested changes for those minutes? They looked good to me. Okay. So we can approve these things together if we so choose. So may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Martha Castle, so moved.
Thank you, Martha. May I get a second?
Yes, a second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. Additionally, in your packets, you will find the Chickering newsletter from March 27th and April 11th, as well as the regional school committee minutes from February 6th and March 5th. And then lastly included in the packet was the Sherborne School Committee minutes from their March 12th meeting, just to keep you in the loop with everything going on. That's that. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but it's in your packet. And then finally, we have a meeting on June 4th. It's starting at 5:30, so just note the unusual start time. It's because we will be having a literacy presentation by Denny and the reading coaches at 6:15, and then the Sherborne School Committee will meet after at 7 p.m. So we're just trying to work it all together.
And can I just add one item that is going to be on that agenda is I think back in the fall, I think it was the meeting I missed, Beth brought forward that we have the donation for the basketball court at Chickering.
Oh, right.
So we're bringing that formal proposal to school committee on June 4th. And with that, I think there's going to be some family members and some alum that also want to come to show their support for the donation. So I just wanted to let you know there will probably be some people in the audience. I did tell them that, we're a little bit not short on time, but there's 3 meetings that night. But I think they want to come and show their support and how grateful they are to be able to be giving this to Chickering. So the plan is to accept it. We'll take over the construction piece of it, and it'll go forward this summer.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So needed.
Yeah.
It is needed. Yeah.
So I think we'll bring forward a little bit more about sort of just the Hoops for Hyde organization and connection to Dover, but I'm expecting to see a little bit of a crowd to want to just show their support and their enthusiasm for moving forward with this. And we've been meetings with Park and Rec, so as you know, it's sort of school committee will sort of take it over, but Park and Rec is part of this whole conversation. Luckily, it's low maintenance going forward, but we'll sort of show you sort of the plan. We'll have we're coming together with the cost so that they'll know sort of the monetary donation that will be made. Mm-hmm. We probably won't have that much about the construction timeline, but it's not a long construction project, but the goal is to have it open for the start of next school year.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. So that is our last. Oh, sorry.
So before you wrap up this meeting, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say a few words. So on behalf of the full school committee, so we don't all go around and say, "Well, you're welcome to say something," but I've heard from a few folks. But we wanted, as a group, express our gratitude for everything that you've done. Your leadership has been great. I know as you took it over, you're very nervous. You inherited a fantastic binder from Sarah, I believe, but you then took it to another level and really made it your own. You've led the meetings gracefully, even some of the more controversial topics that we went through this year. I think we thoughtfully went through new holiday schedule, which was challenging. You and I sat together through negotiations, which was also challenging. But you've brought sort of your insight from your experience as an educator, and you've done a really nice job. I think the whole community is grateful for the work you've done. Certainly have a lasting impact on all of us. And yeah, I don't know who will necessarily take over going to sign for the warrants all the time. You've, again,
We're not that bad.
the small and large tasks, you really helped out everybody on the team, and you're certainly volunteering, maybe sometimes unknowingly what you're getting yourselves into.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, on behalf of all of us, thank you for the work that you've done.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you too. It's been such an honor to work with you
can't
and to have you, to reach out to share information, to brainstorm. You're always thoughtful and centered on the kids. And I really just want to remind the community of all of the work that goes on. It's not just sitting here, once a month in meetings, but it's often phone calls and emails and signing warrants and attending committee meetings and sitting week to week in negotiation meetings and volunteering for this committee. So thank you for donating all of that time on behalf of our students. We're going to miss you.
Thanks.
And a little something so you don't forget us.
Oh yeah.
An apple for your desk.
Thank you.
And a reminder of our core values.
Thanks, you guys. Really, it's been a pleasure and enjoyable. So, good luck. You'll be fine. So that means our meeting has now come to an end, and it is record time of 7:02 on May 13th, 2024. May we, I still can't say this word, adjourn by unanimous consent. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.